Let's check back in with Fox 4's David Sentendrey over at Dallas City Hall. We've been talking about the police presence, and David, I understand that you have an update in that regard.
Yeah, Casey, so when we spoke about 30 minutes ago, the protest was just getting underway, and I was telling you that we really didn't have a view of any Dallas police officers. That did not mean that they were not here. It just meant that they were, for the most part, leaving these protesters alone, and they were just not in our sight. You can see behind me the protest is still going strong. Thousands of people out here. It is a peaceful protest, but do want to point out that after we last talked to you, we noticed that Dallas police officers started to block off this intersection of Irvay and Young. So you got one police vehicle right here, and then over right at the intersection, not only do you have a handful of police vehicles just blocking it off, but you have City of Dallas Public Works dump trucks just blocking it off just to make things secure, because obviously a concern with any protest is that you might have someone who could potentially drive into a crowd, not to get too dark, but that is a reality that police are preparing for. So they're out here, but they are out here right now in an effort to keep people safe, just make sure that everything's going okay. So we have not seen any sort of altercations with anyone. We haven't seen any confrontations, any violence, nothing like that. It has remained peaceful, but did just want to give you guys an update on the police presence that we see over here now at the intersection. We'll see how this develops, because at some point these vehicles are going to have to move, because as I mentioned earlier, the organizers of this protest said in the second hour, which is about 30 minutes from now, there is going to be some sort of a march around downtown. We don't know which direction they're going. They did tell us it's going to be for about a mile or so, but there is going to be some sort of march. We don't know how many people will participate in it, but there are certainly thousands of people out here right now, and you got to think at least a good bit of them are going to take to the streets here in a little while. It'll be interesting to see if Dallas Police Department guides them through that march, or if they tell them to get back on the sidewalk, and they are only allowed on the sidewalk. Certainly this is a whole lot of people that it'd be really difficult to fit them all on one sidewalk area. You'd have to stretch it for a very, very long time. You would have to think it would spill over in the streets, but I can tell you, I was talking to a Dallas Police Department official just a couple of days ago, or I think it was yesterday actually, and they said a permit was not applied for this protest, but that doesn't mean that it had to have been. It was more of just an organic gathering at a public building. A permit was not needed for that. It's unclear whether or not a permit would be needed for an actual march around this area to have it blocked off. I don't know if police are just going to work with them and keep them safe, but that is just an unknown right now. What will happen when protesters go into the streets? Because remember, a couple nights ago, when in a different manner, a little more confrontational manner, when an somewhat unorganized group went into the streets outside of downtown, they were met with officers in riot gear and were told to stay back on the sidewalks. Officers were pleading with them, we want you to protest, we want you to be peaceful, but it has to be done on the sidewalk or in the park area that they were at. So here's another look at what's behind us. Again, what everyone is talking about out here is President Trump's immigration policy. They're upset with how he has been working with ICE. I do need to point out that Homeland Security data that has been put out online says that in the first 100 days of the president's administration, more than 150,000 illegal immigrants were arrested, and it was said by Homeland Security that more than 75% of those illegal immigrants had criminal records or had been arrested and had pending criminal charges. A lot of people, right or wrong, a lot of people are upset more so with the people who have minor infractions, whether it's speeding or ICE agents showing up to court and arresting people before due process has been had. So that's a big factor why a lot of people are out here at this No Kings protest. I know not too long ago I asked someone if they are okay with people being arrested for if they have violent crimes and if they are deported, and just one person from the crowd told me they are okay with that, but on the lesser things, not so much. So we still have speakers going on here at the protest. We have less than 30 minutes probably until it seems like this is going to be a march in the street. We'll check back with you here in a little bit. I don't know if you have any questions for us, Casey, just on what the mood's like out here or anything we're seeing, but feel free to ask. Yeah, David, I was wondering, can't tell from the video or not, any other safety measures in place that maybe we can't see? Sometimes you go to these and they have
chain link fence up to try and keep the crowds back. Have you seen anything like that? I know you talked about the dump trucks. Those are important when it comes to safety. Any fencing, K-rails, things to contain the crowd?
Yeah, nothing that we've seen. We can get another look behind us or in front of us at these dump trucks too, but nothing we've seen other than that. We see 2 dump trucks here at the intersection of Hervé and Young, a handful of police officers, and over on the opposite side we see more police vehicles. So again, they don't want anyone being stupid and driving up here toward the crowd. You know, no one wants something like that to happen. But no fencing. We haven't seen any officers even mingling in the crowd. They're really just staying far back from all this, letting the protesters do what they're going to do. I will tell you, we know they're on standby. We know they're communicating with each other, that being the police department, because something that happened just a few minutes ago, it wasn't violent, it was just an elderly man walked by and he actually tripped on the ground. Oh, here we go, look at this. This is interesting. But an elderly man tripped on the ground and fell, and then out of nowhere, you just see a handful of Dallas police officers just like swarm to help him. I didn't know where they came from, so that was within like a minute of the person falling. So we know they're around, we know they're monitoring, they're just staying back, and I think they're intentionally not wanting to be seen because they don't want to be a distraction.
Yeah, the idea is that they are doing their jobs well when you don't even really know that it's going on. They always say that about the airport. You know, TSA workers, the air traffic controllers, you in theory shouldn't hear about them. They have very important jobs, but you shouldn't hear about them because they're running silently in the background, keeping people safe. I always find it interesting at these events to kind of look up and glance on the rooftops, because you can no doubt bet there are snipers up on the roof. They have eyes up there as well, trying to keep a close eye on this crowd, because David, as we know, crowds can change in a hurry.
Yeah, 100%. And great idea. I'm looking around right now, just seeing if we see anyone on the rooftops. Of course, to the right of us is the library. Don't see anyone up there. We don't see anyone on any of the buildings around us. But again, they know what they're doing. They know how to be discreet, and they don't want to be seen. So
and obviously,
we know that they're all around here. Even on
David.
Monday, during the protests that some might say got a little out of hand at the Margaret Hunt Hill Bridge, there were maybe a few dozen police officers, but when things really started to get intense and more confrontational, things getting thrown, a swarm of officers just flooded in. I mean, they were ready to go, and that was on Monday when there really wasn't a whole lot of preparation. They've been talking about this protest really all week. We know the police chief has met with community leaders who are involved in this protest, so I'm sure they're ready.
And David, I think it's no coincidence that these in North Texas are largely being held in the afternoon. When it's daylight out, when the sun isn't down, that is when we have seen things go south. Not saying that they can't go south during the day, things can't jump off when the sunlight is out, but I think the timing with these very strategic, don't you?
100%, yeah. People who want peaceful protests typically want to organize them in the day. We usually see those more violent protests at night. Again, not to keep bringing up Monday, but that was something that happened once the sun went down. It started off as a peaceful protest, but once the sun went down, it got a bit out of hand. This from 12 to 2, it's hot outside, so I think just being out here in the heat is zapping a lot of energy from people, but we haven't got any indication that anyone out here wants to do anything but just take part in a peaceful protest. I will just kind of describe the crowd out here. So typically at a lot of protests, I think it's safe to say you see more younger people, not exclusively of course, but maybe a majority or a large sample of younger people. Here, there are plenty of young people, but I was talking with my photographer just a little bit ago. We noticed